So in this video what we're going to be doing is rendering the car, and this shouldn't be too difficult. But first let's make sure we have nothing else hiding by pressing Alt and H, and clearly we do not. So let's press Shift and S and choose cursor to world origin. And now what we're going to do is we're going to press Shift and A and add in a mesh plane. Alright, and we're going to press Alt and R to reset the rotation, and we're going to press S and then move the mouse to scale the plane up. Alright, after that we're going to press Ctrl and A and choose rotation and scale to apply the rotation and scale. So this is going to be acting as our shadow catcher. Alright, this is going to be catching the shadow of our car. So in this video, I forgot to tell you guys, I'm going to be teaching you how to render with a backplate from an HDRi. Alright, and then in the next video I'll be teaching you how to render it up in Eevee and make it look like a studio shot or something like that. So in this video I'm just going to be teaching you guys how to achieve a photo with the car in an HDRi backplate. Alright, so let's get to this. So this plane over here is going to act as a shadow catcher. So once we've scaled it up and applied the rotation and scale, what we want to do next is we're going to go into the object properties here, and we're going to go down to visibility. Is it visibility? Yeah. So under visibility right here, we're going to enable shadow catcher. Alright, and I want to put up diffuse. Actually, let's leave those on. Alright, we're going to leave it on. I wanted us to put it off, but we're going to leave it on. So just leave everything else on, and now let's move on with this. So what we're going to do next is there was one thing I wanted us to do before we actually moved on, is to add a little bit of a tweak to this 4 tires we have going on the car, and that is to make it look like it has a pressure on it. Okay, so we want it to bulge out a little bit on in this area to make it look like it's having some kind of pressure on it. Alright, so let's do this right now. So I'm going to press 3 to get to the side view, and I'm going to press Shift and A to add in a a lattice. Alright, like this. First off, let me delete that lattice. Let me take this and press Shift and S and choose cursor to select it. Alright, we want it to be in the center of the tire, and I want to press Shift and A and add in a lattice like this. So I want to get to the front view, and I want to scale this lattice up in the x-axis all the way down, and I want to scale it in the z-axis all the way to the bottom of the tire, as you can see right here. So just a slightly below it like that. And let me get to the side. Let me see, maybe we have to scale it in the y-axis as well, pretty close to the tire like that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to click on the lattice tab over here, and we're going to increase the U. I'm going to increase that up to about 8 or something, and I'm going to increase this one up as well to about let me see, let's get onto the side view. Okay, so we want a line that is sitting right underneath the end of the rim right here. Okay, that is what we want to achieve. So let's keep adding this in until we get that, and I think this is a good space. Alright, we can go with this. So if you just have that line sitting right underneath the end of the rim like that, it could be very helpful in the end. But if you want to have it even closer, as I did in my final render, you can keep adding this in until you have one sitting very closer to the rim than that. So maybe we can go with this instead. Alright, so once we've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to take this object and then take that lattice, that is the tire object, and then take the lattice. I want to press Ctrl and P, and we're going to select lattice deform right here. So once you do that, the lattice should control the deformity of the tire. So if I take this and I press G, you can see what it's doing to the tire. That's what we're going to use to achieve that bulge that we're looking for. So what I'm going to do is, we're not going to touch the ones that are above or close to the rim. That is all the ones up here. We're not going to touch them. So we're going to go into wireframe, and we're going to take all of these 4 over here. Okay, that is both sides of the tire like that. So you had to go into wireframe to be able to select all 4. Just go into wireframe and select all 4. And then what we're going to do is we're going to scale this in the x-axis. We're going to scale it up. Let's get to the front view so we can get a better view of this. So let's scale it in the x-axis, pull it out to about there. Okay, just to add some kind of pressure to it. And then once we've done that, we're going to get to this side, and what we're going to do is we're going to take all of the objects here as well. I want to pull it up in the z-axis just a little bit, and I want to deselect these ones, pull these 2 up a little bit as well, just like that. And then finally let's deselect this and then pull these up to that point like that. So when we hide the lattice, you can see what we have going on, just to make it look like it has some kind of pressure on it. And if it's too much, you can just tweak it and then have it going the way you want it to. Yeah. So let's press Alt and H to bring everything back. You can see we only have it going on over here, so we can take these two. We can take these two over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then take the exact same two on the other side. So that'll be 8 of them selected. And I want to scale it out in the x-axis a little bit as well. Okay, just to kind of make it look more realistic. Kind of make it how do I say this? Make it, you know. So let's just select these 8 again, and what we're going to do is we're going to pull it inside a bit more because I think it's too much. Just pull it inside a bit more, and then let's hide this and then see how it looks. So yeah, I think that looks much better. That was what I was going for. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get to the side view. I'm going to press Alt and H to bring the lattice back. Take this, press Shift and S and choose Composite selected. And I want to take this one. We're going to Shift and D this, alright? And we're going to press Shift and S. We're going to Shift and D it, leave it in that position. Press Shift and S and choose Selected to Composite. Alright, so where is it? Selection to Composite, like that. Just like that. So once we've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to take this object and then take that one. And I'm going to press Ctrl and P and choose Lattice Deform. And you can see instantly it deforms the tire for us, just the way we want it to. So we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to take this, press Shift and S, Composite to Selected. Take that, press Shift and D, leave it in that position. Press Shift and S, Selection to Composite. Take the tire and take the lattice, press Ctrl and P and choose Lattice Deform. Just like that. And now finally we're going to do it for this one as well. So Shift and S, Composite to Selected. We're going to duplicate this, leave it in a position, press Shift and S, Selection to Composite. And then select this and select that, press Ctrl and P and choose Lattice Deform. And that should be it. So all that we're going to do now is to take the plane, or maybe we should take everything instead, because we still want the plane to be on the ground level of the 3D viewport. So let's bring everything else back instead. I want to get to the front view. We're going to take everything. Alright, we're going to take everything except for the plane we have down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to get down here. And then we're going to press G and then Z and pull this down until we have the tire sticking out. Okay, so let's take a look at this one over here. So you can see the tire sticking out a little bit over here. I'm just going to pull it up just a bit in the Z axis. And I think that should be good. Alright, so the reason that I selected everything is that we have shrink wraps going on. If we move the main car, the object, I mean the actual car, without moving the guide meshes, it might actually create some problems for us in the end. So just make sure you have all of them selected except for the plane and then move them. So once we're done with that, we're just going to hide them real quick. Come on. So we're just going to hide them. I think it's all of these, including the blueprints. Yeah. So just hide them like that. And that should be it. Alright. So we can deselect everything. And now let's take these objects, alright? The lattices. I want to take all 4 of the lattice. Not that one. Let me reselect them. Just Control Z. It's kind of slow. So I'm just going to select them all. And I'm going to press M and then move them to the lattices collection. Just like that. And that effect should still be there nicely for us, just the way we want it to. Alright, so now that we have this set up and ready for what we need it for, we can move on to rendering this. Alright, so first of all, you just need to make sure you have your render agent on cycles, and if you have a GPU, you can change to your GPU compute right here. Sorry about that, but if you don't have a GPU, you can just leave it on CPU like that. Then we can get on with this. But one more thing is, if you have it on GPU, alright, what you want to do is go down to performance, and you want to change the performance to, I found out that 512 by 512 worked for me very well, but I don't know which one will work for you guys much well. But in case you're using a GTX 1050, which is what I'm using, 512 by 512 should go quite well for you. So I'm going to be rendering with my GPU compute. That's why I kept that there. And then the samples, you might want to go with something higher or lower depending on what scene you're rendering in. Okay, so if you're going with a scene that has a lot of noise in your final render, you might want to go with a higher sample. But if you have something lower, something without much noise, you can do away with 500. All right, so I'm gonna go with 700 in this case. You can go with whichever amount you want. And now the next thing we're going to do, rendering on an HDRi backplate requires you to know certain few things. All right, you need your HDRi, that is the HDRi of that backplate you're downloading, and also the what do you call it, the actual backplate. All right, so you also need information of the backplate, like what focal length was used to take that backplate, and yeah, just I think that's all you need. Yeah, pretty much. So you just need the focal length that was used to take that backplate, and I'm going to show you guys how you can see that. So basically on HDRi Haven, which is where I download most of my HDRIs, you can find some HDRIs. Just go over to browse HDRI to click on the tab over there, the browse 200 plus HDRIs. It should open up a hold on, my network is actually a bit slow right now. Alright, so it should open up a list for you. You can find some in the all. So when you click on all, it shows you all of the HDRIs that are available there, and as you can see, the name suggests what you're going to get. So we're going to go with all, or maybe any of these HDRIs you think you like. Just click on it. I'm going to go with this one. So you just click on it, and then it takes you to that HDRI. This is going to take a while because I have a download going on. So yeah, it takes you to that HDRI. You can just click on this 4K or whatever resolution you want. I went with the 4K because I didn't need to render in the HDRI. I just needed it to cast some reflections on my car. So I downloaded the 4K, and then I came down here. And then down here, what you want to do is you find the backplate that you want, click on it, and then you want to download maybe pretty as JPEG, that is as you're seeing it right now. You can go with that, and then once you download that, you also want to download the one that says straight from camera. All right, so get the one that you like, maybe pretty as JPEG or plain as JPEG. I mean plain JPEG, no adjustments, or you can download the straight from camera, whichever one you need. But in case you go with the pretty JPEG, you might want to download the raw as well. You'll know why very soon. So what you want to do next is, as you can see, this is actually one of my renders I uploaded up on HDRi Haven, and yeah. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go over to wherever we downloaded our, sorry about that, wherever we downloaded our HDRi. In my case, is in my Drive D Blender stuff, and then under HDRi right here, I think it's a new folder. Yeah, this is it right here. So Autumn Road. This is the actual HDRi, the 4K HDRi that I downloaded, and these are my backplates. And if you take a look, you can see I downloaded the pretty JPEG and also the what do you call it? I downloaded the pretty JPEG. In this case, let's say this one. I downloaded the pretty JPEG and I also downloaded the raw. All right, the one that came straight from the camera. Now the reason being, if you downloaded the one that was adjusted after it was taken from the camera, you won't actually be able to see the focal length. All right, it won't tell you any information about the focal length. But when you go over to the one that came straight from the camera, you can see the focal length by right clicking on this, and then go over to properties, and then under details here you should see focal length. It says what, 17 millimeters. So that's what you're going to be using for your focal length. You're going to type that in Blender. Let's go back to Blender. You're going to select your camera, or you're going to add in your camera real quick, and you want to go in here, and under the camera tab you want to set the focal length to the amount that you need. So in my case, I'm going to be using where is this? So I'm going to be using this backplate over here. No, not that one. Yeah, this backplate. All right, so this one actually came straight from Photoshop. I took this backplate over here, and then I motion blurred it in Photoshop. As you can see right here, I motion blurred it in Photoshop, and that was what I used in my final render. So you can also do that in your final render, but in case you're not getting any motion blur, you can just continue as I am right now to get your final render to look the way you want it to. All right, so just with this backplate selected, I'm going to take its the one that came straight from the camera, and I'm going to right click on it, go over to properties, and then it should tell me the focal length. In this case, I think it's 17 millimeters right here. So I want to type that in Blender right here in the focal length. So I want to type 17, and that should be good. So now the next thing we want to do is we want to go back to that folder, and what we want to do is we want to take a look at the resolution of the file. All right, so just hover your mouse over it. It should show you the dimensions right here. As you can see down there, it says 4928 by 3264. So you want to type that in here, 4928 by 2634. I think I got that right, did I? 4928 by 3264. Yeah, 3264. So you want to type that in the resolution section of this, and then that should scale the camera up to be the same resolution as your picture over here. And this is very important to be able to place your rendered image on top of the backplate quite accurately, if you know what I mean. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take this object over here. All right, first let's take the camera and let's go over to the camera tab. We're going to add in a a background image like this. Just bring that down. Make sure you have this checked, and then add in an image, open it, and go over to wherever you have your HDRi saved. So mine is over here. So I'm going to open this one, alright, my motion blurred image, and that should be my background, alright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the alpha all the way to 1, and I'm going to take this one, and then I'm going to hide it. So I'm going to take the cam now. Let me just zoom in a bit. I'm going to go over to, is it safe areas? No. Where is this? Should be under viewport display, pass it out, and I'm going to increase this to a full 1, just like that. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to press N and then go over to view over here. No, it's not view, I think it's item. I'm going to go over to item. Is it item? This thing is around here somewhere. I think it's view. So under view, yeah, under view right here. So just bring this tab here down, and you should see lock to camera view. So just enable that like that, and we're going to use that to set up the car to look just the way we want it to. So we want to middle mouse click on this, all right, until the car fits just the way we want it to. So the focal length is already right, so it should start looking right when you're placing the car like this. You can see that is already starting to look great. All right, just like that. So once you have that going on, you've placed your car, you can press Alt and H to bring your plane back. This is going to be the one catching your shadow that you need. So let's hide that again. And once you have your car placed, what you want to do next is to, go over to, actually let's bring the plane back. You want to take the plane and then go over to the materials section, and I want to add in a new material, alright? So add in a new material, increase the roughness all the way to 1, and then let's drop the color to a very dark color, like really black. Like that. That should be good. Alright, so once you have that done, don't forget you have your lock to camera view enabled, so any movement you make here is actually going to affect the final thing in the camera. So what you want to do is put off the lock to camera view. Again, just put it off. And now what we're going to do next is, I think this moved a little bit, so let's just enable this again. Let's zoom in just once. There we go. Alright, so once you have that, what you want to do next is just bring back your plane again. So you want to move this plane. Let's move this plane out. Let me just create a new collection first. So I'm going to click on the collection and say new. And I'm going to call this collection ground. Alright, just like that. And I'm going to move this plane to the ground collection like that. So what we're going to do now is, up here you can see it says view layer. Alright, so you can rename this to whatever you want to call it. Say foreground. Let's call this foreground for now. So just call it foreground like that. And then what you want to do is you're going to disable these objects from showing in the foreground in the final render, or else if you were to go on and render this right now, you're going to be seeing the guide mesh. You're going to be seeing the guide mesh in the final render. It's going to show in the render for you to see. You're going to be seeing it in the final render. So in order to prevent that, we're just going to click on this check icon, this check box over here, to disable it. So what this means is it has completely excluded this from the foreground layer when you render it out. So you can also do that by right clicking on this and go over to view layer and then say what? Disable from view layer. And you can see instantly it unchecks the box for us. So it's pretty much the same thing. So we're just going to uncheck this box just like this. And then finally we're going to uncheck this one. Okay, so this is the foreground. We don't want any shadow in this. We just want the car and the reflection. Alright. So what you want to do next is open up your what do you call it? Let me close this again. Open up your world tab over here. Go over to the world tab open this up, click on the open, go to the HDRi, find the HDRi that corresponds to the backplate that you loaded in, and then just select that HDRi, load it in just like that. And then, you know, rotate things around, rotate the HDRi around to kind of fit it to match the direction of your car, where your car is facing and all that. And you can do that with your, let me show you the shader editor real quick. So in the shader editor on the world tab, this is what you should have. Okay, so what you want to do is just take this one and press Ctrl and T, and then you can get out of this, go over to the rendered view. You can go over to the rendered view right now. It's going to take a while. And right now, this is what I have. Okay, so what I want to do first is I have transparent enabled, so I'm going to put that off. So you can see where the car is facing for the HDRi, and when instead it should be facing straight forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this one, the Z axis over here. I'm going to rotate this just like this. I think that is the right direction until it's facing directly where we want it to face. So something like that should be good. And now we can minimize this. Alright, so let's go back to solid view. And we know our camera is looking, our HDRi is facing the right direction. Alright, so what we're going to do next is we've set out these ones not to render in the foreground. Alright, so what we're going to do next is we're going to create another view layer. So we're going to click on this icon here to create a new layer. It's going to say view layer. Start with it. Come on. There we go. So it's going to say view layer, and now we're going to rename this to background. Alright. So what we're going to do with this one is we're going to get rid of these ones. We don't want them to show in the final render. So we're just going to get rid of those ones for now. Just like that. And now what I want to do is we don't want to completely remove this out of this. Okay, so these ones are going to be casting shadow on the plane. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to right click on this, go over to the view layer. I'm going to set it as indirect only. So what indirect only does is it's going to allow it to only cast shadows and reflections on your whatever is receiving the information, which in this case is a plane. Okay, so the plane is going to be catching shadows from the car. Okay, that is what set indirect only stands for. So I'm going to set indirect only for this and also for this, just like that. So it's not going to be showing in the final render, but it's going to be setting this as indirect. So if you go over to the rendered, you can see you only end up having shadow showing, just like that. Okay, so now that we have this going on, what we want to do next is let's go over to the what tab is this? The render properties over here. Right down here under film, you should see film down here. You're going to enable transparent, just like that, to get rid of the background from showing in the camera. Alright, just like that. So you can see your shadow is showing on the car very nicely like that. And now, if you go to the foreground, that one only has the car on it, no shadow. It's going to take a while. Yeah, just like that, as you can see. So in case you actually also have a motion blur background and you want to achieve something that looks like the car is speeding through space, what you want to do is you can see clearly the tires are not rotating. So what you can do is take every piece of object in here that actually rotates with the tire, which in this case will be the wheel hub, the rims, the wheel nuts. But I don't think the brake pads rotate, so you don't want to take that. So just take all of those and take, including the rim, and then take the final piece to be the tire, and then press Ctrl and P and then parent it to the tire. And then you can rotate the tire around, animate it, and then make it look like it's speeding up, and then find a point in the keyframes that actually has the tire actually rotating. Alright, and then just take the shot from there. If you guys don't understand what I'm trying to say, I'll make a separate video on that. So let's get on with this. So once you have this set up in there like this, what you want to do next is to just hit render. Alright, you have everything set up. So what do you do next? You just hit render. So I'm not going to be rendering this again because I already have done that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how you can composite this once you have the once your render has completed. Alright, so you want to go over to the compositing tab right here and just minimize this. So if you go to your compositing tab and then you click on use nodes, it's going to give you something like this. Alright, so in case you don't have two of these render layers, what you want to do is you want to duplicate them. Alright, so you want to duplicate them, set this to background and set that to foreground. Alright, but in my case, since I have the image and I don't want to, I haven't actually rendered this out, this is not going to be showing, so I'm going to be using image textures, images instead of the render layers. All right, so in this case, whatever image I'm using should be a render layer. All right, so I'm going to change this from render layer to input image, and I'm going to change this one as well. Actually, let me delete this for now. I'm going to click on open, and I think I have it on my desktop. G class renders, I think. Where should it be? Where should it be? Yeah, so right here. Okay, so I'm going to open this. This was the foreground that I rendered out, so I'm going to load that in here, and I'm going to duplicate this. So in this case, this foreground that I've loaded in here would be your foreground render layer. All right, and I'm going to duplicate this down here, and I'm going to change the image to the shadow like this, and in this case this will be your background render layer. All right, so once you have that going, what you want to do is press Shift and A. First off, let's add in a viewer node. So the viewer node is right here, so that shows us what we're working on currently. Let me just press V to bring this out, and now what we're going to do next is, let me press Shift and A and add in a layout reroute. I want to put that over here. I'm going to set this into the viewer like that. So what I want to do next is, we're going to add in the actual backplate as well. Okay, so just add in an image texture up here, and then open the image texture and find the backplate that you used to actually render this. All right, so go to, no, I don't think it's in backdrops. It's in new folder, auto mode, and I think it's this one right here. Okay, so just find yours and then load it in just like that. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add in a color alpha over right here, and I'm going to set this in here. Now what I want to do is I want to move this down here and bring the shadow up here like this, and I'm going to set this in here like that. Now let's take a look at what that looks like. Good. Now I'm going to press Shift and D and move this down here. I'm going to set this in here as well, down here like this, and now you can see what we have going on very nicely. Let me just do a few things here, set this in here. Alright, so you can see what we have going on. It's looking great, but as you can see, the shadow down there doesn't look too great. Alright, the shadow is too less. So how can we fix this? If you actually watch my compositing video, that is, if you haven't watched it, click on the eye icon to take you there. But if you have watched it, then you know that the way we actually fixed this was we duplicated this twice. So we made this 2, and then we brought in an alpha over, put it here, and then we set this to the top one, and then set that to the bottom. I mean, it doesn't really matter because they're the same images. And now I'm going to set this one right here into this, and now you're going to see that the shadow actually increases like that. Now that is looking better. Now you can see the car is actually looking brighter than the whole image. You can actually control this with your brightness and contrast, and the color, brightness and contrast. You can control that with this. So you can increase the brightness to 1 and increase the contrast to 1. Should kind of help. Now let's drop the brightness down to 0.5 or something. Let's drop it down to 1. Sorry, I mean 0. And now you can see it's actually kind of fitting the scene a bit more. So you can mess around with this. You can add in a color balance node. Maybe go over to color balance. Add in a color balance node, and then you can use it to control maybe the how you want the image to look. I think these ones actually control the highlights. I think this control the midtones and this control the shadows. So you might want to tweak this around the way you want. And then when you're done and you think your image is too blurry, you can actually add in a filter node right here. You can add in a filter node and then set it to sharpen. Alright. So this is going to sharpen it for you. Obviously this is too much, so we can drop it down to something like 0.1. That should make it look a bit more sharpened. Just like that. Or you can decide not to go with any sharpening at all. It helps either ways, whichever way you want to go with. So yeah, that is how you can achieve a render with a what do you call it, a backplate. Now if I am to take a look at this, let me go over here, view render. I'm going to set this to the, come on, viewer node. Come on, just like that. And you can see this is what the viewer node is actually receiving, and you can see that actually looks really, really great. So you can achieve this with just follow whatever I've said in here to achieve some good renders with your model, and yeah, make it look great. So this is where I'll actually end the tutorial. But in case you guys need more HDRi and backplates, there's this website called HDRi Maps. They actually have some freebies you can download for free. So let me just show you the website real quick. It's HDRi Maps. HDR Maps, is it? Yeah, HDR Maps right here. So you can go to the website, they have some freebies over there. You can just click on the freebies right here. Once you click on it, it should take you that straightforward, and you can get some HDRi's here. And yeah, so yeah, you can get all these are free for you to download. You can download them from the website, all for free. Can't quite find the HDRi, but yeah, just get the one you need and then use it for whatever you want. Not all of them have the backplates, so you might want to choose the one you really want to use. So yeah, this is where I'll end the video, and I will pretty much see you guys in the next